This episode is brought to you by Decium's Slowvember initiative and the Ordinary Glycolic Acid 7% Exfoliating Toner, now available in 100 milliliters, making it perfect for travel. Between the lead up to silly season and the frenzy of Black Friday, the culture of impulse spending and fear of missing out on a good deal feels inescapable come November, which is why Decium is back for its 5th year of the Slowvember initiative. To counteract this shopping panic, Decium is now offering 23% off across all products on the Ordinary website for the month of November, encouraging shoppers to find long-term skincare solutions, build lasting routines, and encourage mindful consumption. Additionally, the Ordinary's Glycolic Acid 7% Exfoliating Toner in 100 milliliters will be included in the Slowvember initiative discounts. So if you're in the market for a daily acid toner to smooth texture, even tone, and enhance brightness and luminosity, have a think this month about whether the Glycolic Acid 7% Exfoliating Toner might be right for you. In taking a stance against Black Friday, Decium will also be transforming its websites worldwide into a transaction-free day. We truly love to see it. Welcome back to Infinite Scroll. I'm Lauren.
I'm Geordie, and we're the co-founders of Gen Z digital media brand Centennial World. And these are the biggest stories on the internet this week. But first, you may notice, if you're watching on YouTube, we are back to our remote recording setup.
So I am currently in Noosa, Queensland with my family. It's been really freaking nice. Like, I actually can't even explain how nice Noosa is. And I mean, if you guys have been, or if you live in Australia, I am sure you know, like, people talk about it all the time, but it is so true. For me, it's kind of giving like Byron, but like bougier, less like hippie, and a little bit less busy. But I don't know if that's just because we're kind of on the off season, but oh my God, it is so nice here. I'm loving it.
I actually was thinking earlier in the year when you guys hauled us to Fiji and the weather ended up being bad, like, you probably would have been better off just going to Noosa, and it probably would have cost the same as doing an international holiday, because obviously, like, it's expensive because it's bougie, but it gives the energy that you wanted from Fiji.
100%. And what's really funny is my parents, you know, they're very much like activity vacationers, and like so am I to an extent, but I can appreciate a holiday where you also just like chill. Whereas my parents, like, even when we would go to like all-inclusive resorts growing up in like Mexico or the Caribbean, which like the point is like you're there with your kids to like be in the pool, be at the beach, like chill, like we would be doing activities every single fucking day. Like, they do not like to chill. And it's so funny because they were just in Port Douglas, and I guess there's like a lot to do in Port Douglas, and they kept saying we should have stayed in Port Douglas longer, there's nothing to do in Noosa. And I'm like, that's literally the point. The point is that there is nothing to do here.
And like, it just is so well set up for that. Just eat and drink and nap and read, you know, everyone needs a little bit of that at a point in their life.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's been so good. So I am working from here for the week, but like, I'm just loving it. Like, in the mornings, I'm going for a walk, or like I went for a run yesterday. That was pretty unwell, but you know, I'm trying my best. And like getting a coffee, like looking at the beach, and then coming back and working right by the pool. It's really nice. I am enjoying it.
It makes me understand why people want to follow the digital nomad path, because it doesn't feel like you're working. You can have a really productive day, but you still feel like you have time on either side. You're not in the like rise and grind of it all. I do feel like working, it brings a different energy when you're doing it in an unfamiliar location.
100%. But yes, in terms of content this week, Nick and I have just been keeping up with all the new housewives. We've been watching Winter House as well. He's never entered the millennial Bravo universe, so Winter House is the first like entrance for him. We did start watching Vanderpump, but honestly, we watched the first season. It's so painful. It's actually like, it was a reality TV gold at the time, but it's literally so hard to watch if you know how good reality TV has come from then. So we have put that kind of on the back burner. But yes, Real Housewives of Miami is back. Amazing. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, we're keeping up with. You guys, if you guys are watching Salt Lake City, you will know Monica and her mom. I've never seen a more toxic relationship, and Nick and I actually had to watch the scene of them sitting down for dinner twice because we were laughing so hard. It's obviously like a little bit not funny because there's clearly a lot of issues there, but we were laughing so hard because at one point Monica orders guac for the table, and then it arrives and her mom goes, "Oh, what a beautiful dessert." And then she's like, "Mom, that's guacamole." And I don't know what it was, but it was just like the tension of this dinner where they were like fighting and like just kind of purging all this like trauma from their childhood. And then just like this exact moment, it was like the perfect tension breaker. Like it was perfection.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something about it was just like a metaphor for the awkwardness, but it does sound like I can feel it. Not having any context of that situation, I can feel the awkwardness.
No, and apparently now Monica, everyone has basically turned on Monica in terms of the fandom. Everyone loved her at first, and now I guess everyone's turned on her. She's also trying to sue Heather, who owns Beauty Lab and Laser. She's one of the housewives. For anyone that doesn't know, she owns like a med spa, basically. She's trying to sue her for like botched filler and Botox, but it turns out that Heather's also trying to sue her because she never paid her bills over like years and years and years. She owes like thousands of dollars. It's like just a disaster. So we are really enjoying that. And then we actually have not finished Real Housewives of New York, the reboot, because it got so boring.
The last I tuned out, or I stopped like trying so hard to watch it, I think it was after their trip. But yeah, watch that. There was all the drama about Jenna not wanting to fly coach. And like that was like the fundamental like drama of the trip. And like obviously there was a lot of kind of trauma unpacking and all of that. And I feel very grateful for like the BravoCon of it all that's just come and gone, that I have these touch points that I didn't have before. But I haven't committed to the bit again after that. I actually completely forgot about it.
It really started off strong. Everyone was really hopeful. They're like, this is so fun and fresh and young. And that's how I felt too. And then it got so boring. Like none of them really want to party, which I know is like kind of toxic to say, especially as me on my sober girl journey. But that there needs to be an element of people like letting their hair down on these shows. And obviously drinking often facilitates that. None of them really want to like get messy in the weeds. Like Jessel is literally the only one that has shared anything like, well, I guess Brynn has also shared stuff about her background, but like Brynn just feels kind of like a caricature of herself. Whereas like Jessel, I feel like is the only one who has actually shared like meaningful things about her life and is still being really authentic about it and still leaving space for the other women to also share, because that's kind of Sai's problem. At least, I mean, like I said, I haven't finished it, but Sai is sharing some stuff about her life, but she's trying to play like the trauma Olympics with everyone. So she doesn't like leave any space for anybody to share their story as well. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not like loving it. It's gotten really boring.
Do you think it's, and I'm not sure how like traditionally first seasons of Housewives have worked in the past, but do you think there's any element of like this is setting it up as like a building block and then they have the potential to get better in a couple of seasons once they're more familiar with each other? Because I also feel like you can tell they've kind of all been thrown together for the first time and they're trying to figure out each other and they're not that familiar with, you know, how the rest of the group works, how the dynamic is going to unfold. And so I feel like maybe once they get a bit more comfortable with that in newer seasons with that same cast, there might be potential for it to get like better and messier as they become more familiar with each other.
Totally. I think so. And I do think it's hard. Like they chose some women who have amazing careers. And of course, nobody wants to put that on the line for a show that might not get renewed, you know? So I think they'll ease into it. I do think they'll kind of, I think it will find its feet. I think the cast is really good. I don't know if Jenna will come back. I'm interested to see that.
But also I feel like the other girls would have a lot more space if she wasn't there. Like I love her and I think she's made this season quite interesting, but only because we're seeing it play out how everyone functions around her, which means nobody else, like you said, has the room to kind of bring what they can to the table. It is like kind of the Jenna show.
That's so true. And it's funny because she doesn't want it to be, and she's not, you know, this larger than life personality by any means, but it's just because she's on such a different playing field as the other women that they are kind of like tiptoeing around her in a way. Yeah, it is interesting. I think the reboot, it was good to have Jenna as this draw for people and to legitimize the reboot. I know that the Bravo fandom, like we would have watched it anyways, but I think there were so many questions about like, what do you mean they're rebooting all of Roni? Like Roni was such a fan favorite and yeah, it had a couple bad seasons at the end there, but you know, it had so many iconic housewives like that people have loved for years. So I think they did kind of need that celebrity pull to be like, look, this is like legit. Like we're actually going for this. But I don't know if it makes sense for her to continue.
Would they just not renew it? Like, does that happen?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of franchises. I'm trying to think if there's any franchises that only had one season. I think Auckland only had one season.
I feel like New York is so iconic though. That would be such a big call for Bravo, right? Like, it would have to be worse than it is for them to like fully pull the pin on and as such an iconic franchise.
Yes. So the only reason why they might, I feel like, I don't think they will. I don't think they will, but I feel like what might happen is, so Legacy, like Real Housewives of New York Legacy is coming back, but as like an ultimate girls trip. So they're going like on a vacation together. And I think if that dynamic works really well and people are like much more receptive to that, then possibly they will bring back Legacy as like the true Real Housewives of New York. But I don't think that they would overhaul a franchise like this if they didn't plan to stick it out for a few seasons and see where it went.
Yeah, that's the thing. I do think it deserves a little bit more time, especially like we said. I actually don't know if we mentioned it on the podcast, that massive Rolling Stone profile of Jessel.
Oh, yeah.
That was so cool. And I think that was like really unique for the housewives. And it is kind of proving that there is this opportunity for it to be like modernized and people want to see, you know, career women in a different way. And there's all this opportunity there that I think with that push and how receptive people were to that profile and that kind of legitimate coverage, like everyone found that really exciting. So I think with that, everyone will be willing to give it a couple more like seasons and years to see how it all pans out. What are the Winter House vibes? Because I haven't watched it. I didn't realize it was out.
Oh, okay. So there's only a couple episodes. It's interesting. So I like what they've done this year where they've basically tried to take away all the randoms. I think there's like one random person and the rest are people from the millennial Bravo universe. So like Below Deck, Family Karma, you know, Winter House, Summer House, like whatever. It's been interesting because a lot of them like know each other or have crossed over just because of like the Bravo universe. So I think that's been beneficial. I don't know, like Andy Cohen, I think it was Andy, said at BravoCon, or maybe it was another producer, said at BravoCon that Winter House is the most fun show on Bravo at the moment. So I'm hoping it gets like a little bit better. At the moment, it's kind of like womp womp because Tom Sandoval was supposed to be on it. But it started filming in March and that's when Scandival happened. So like 3 days before he was supposed to go film Winter House, Scandival broke. So he is not on it, but Tom Schwartz is. And the house is kind of divided on Schwartz because of course, like all the women who like know Ariana, like Danielle, like she's been in the Bravo universe for so long. So she like knows Ariana and she's like not having Tom Schwartz. Cause you know, at the time everybody was like so mad at Schwartz, even though he didn't technically do anything. And I stand by the fact that his allegiance obviously was to Tom Sandoval. Like that's his best friend forever.
Yeah.
So I think at the time there was a lot of like a lot of misplaced anger. But anyways, he's on it. So there's kind of like weird dynamics there with him. And then Corey is on it, obviously, again. Paige and Craig are not, which makes me sad. I didn't know that.
It does make me sad, but I love Paige, but this specific BravoCon that's just come and gone, I'm feeling very overwhelmed by her. Yeah,
she's definitely been overexposed, but I think she's riding this wave because she probably knows it's not going to last forever. I'm assuming she chose not to go on Winter House. I'm assuming it's not that she wasn't asked back. I think choosing not to go on Winter House tells me that she's kind of like phasing out of being like a reality star. I'm sure she'll still be on Summer House for a little bit, but I feel like she didn't want to film Southern Charm. She did, I guess, but she's spoken openly about how she like did not want to be on Southern Charm. She doesn't want to be on like 3 Bravo shows. Like she really wants to cement herself as like independent of Bravo. So I think the way that Giggly Squad 2, all of their stadium tours are selling out, like I think she really is moving in that direction of being like a podcaster, a commentator, a personality outside of the Bravo universe. But what's interesting about having Corey on is, you know, we saw him start dating Sam last season on Summer House, and Sam, I guess, wasn't asked to be on Winter House. And he's like pretending that they're not dating. And that's kind of one of the biggest dramas, is that he's like low-key lying to all of these girls in the house, and Danielle's like, I know that they're dating. Like, I know Sam. I'm friends with Sam. They're dating. They're officially dating. But he won't admit it to the other girls. And like the girls all love him. They're like, oh my God, Corey's so hot. Like everybody wants to hook up with Corey. But he's like pretending that he's kind of single, and then he's like leading them on, but then like won't actually hook up with them. And it's like this whole thing. And then they all start talking shit about like Sam. And so now Sam on social media is like posting clips of the girls talking shit about her and being like, keep talking about me, babes. It pays my bills. And it's become this like whole drama. I think I'm one episode behind, so I don't know, because I know Sam comes to visit and she gets like in a fight with some of the girls. But yes, that so far is like the biggest drama, and it just kind of pisses me off. Like I agree that the girls on Summer House, like the 2 Below Deck girls, are being really savage about, oh, and there's a girl from Martha's Vineyard, Jordan, and she kind of likes Corey too. Like all the girlies are definitely being a bit rude about Sam, but like Corey is literally lying to them. So of course they're not going to really understand what's going on. As far as I can tell, it seems as though Corey gets away scot-free, and it's all the girls ganging up on Sam and being mad like at each other, like fighting within each other, as opposed to being like, what the fuck, Corey?
Oh my God. I feel like he's used to that. He kind of just gets away with shit. You know, he's like, I feel like that's kind of been his MO so far. I really like them together, so I hope it kind of pans out and doesn't get too nasty, but it's also like good for the show, right? Like it's keeping things interested, it's keeping people invested. And I think it's the opposite to Paige, where, you know, like with Giggly Squad, like you said, Hannah was on the Drew Barrymore show recently, Hannah Berner. She just got an Into the Gloss profile. Like she's really blowing up at the moment. Her and Paige are trying to cement themselves outside of the Bravo universe. Corey is like balls to the wall Bravo celebrity energy, and he's down for that. So he's just trying to like make himself the most interesting, so they like keep him in this rotation now.
100%. Well, because he auditioned for Southern Charm.
Interesting. I don't know how well the pearls would have gone. You know, I love a man in pearls. I don't think that would have gone down very well on Southern Charm.
I know. I like do not like Corey. I think he's gross. And he's also like a raging transphobe. And I don't know why that's not more well known. I think we've actually talked about that on the pod. But I really like Sam, and I'm actually so surprised that she's not back on Summer House or Winter House.
Yes, she was so cute. I mean, she is so cute, and I follow her on social now and I watch her vlogs. So missed opportunity, in my opinion.
Definitely. Okay, but how is your week? What have you been watching?
My week has been good. Everything's kind of coming up now. We've got the hens this weekend, so kind of, well, I would say I'm in planning mode, but that's kind of, my sisters are managing that, so I actually don't know very much, which is making me anxious in a different way, but still very exciting. All the surprises to come at the end of the week. I have been watching Selling Sunset, but it was my first time like semi hungover again post sober era, so I kind of was like zoning in and out. But I would like to know everyone's opinion, because Chriselle is giving mean girl, and I don't know, like I want to know how other people feel about it. She is just being like, I think she's developed a backbone, which everyone loved from last season. They loved that she was standing up for herself. She wasn't like a Mrs. Nice Girl all the time, but I also think now she's using that energy and she's standing up for herself, but then she's just following it up with like the nastiest comments. Like she told Nicole she's rearranged her whole face with plastic surgery on camera. And Nicole's like, wait, what the fuck did you just say to me?
That's so savage.
It's
because
so
it's not
savage.
like Chriselle has no work done.
Totally. And like, obviously Mary Lou, like Jason's new girlfriend, there are some issues with that relationship, and I totally understand why she feels the way she feels about that. But she's like literally sitting opposite Mary Lou at dinner being like, I'm losing brain cells having a conversation with you. Like she's just turned into the most savage bitch, and I kind of love the energy, but it's just crossing over into nasty a little bit, and it's just kind of making me sad because she had towed that line pretty well until now. So I don't know, it's a really good season. I'm really enjoying it. I'm like only kind of halfway through at the moment, but I feel like Selling Sunset's just like so easy. And then Loki season 2 is now like entirely out. I lost interest about halfway through, and then I was kind of watching it, kind of cleaning, like kind of just like bopping around at the same time, and it got so good at the end. So I'm actually going to sit down and rewatch the entire end of the series. So I think anyone that was debating whether or not to watch Loki season 2, it actually is looking and feeling really good. So I'll report back on that when I've actually watched it properly.
Oh, good. Yeah, I feel like with Chrishell, she definitely always had like a little bit of mean girl in her. Do you think that she's trying to like replace Christine's energy? Because that was obviously so iconic.
It's interesting because I feel like there's no strategy behind it. I feel like she's almost giving Paige a little bit in that she doesn't want to be there. I think she is so happy with G, and G is just, you know, doing the most amazing things, and Chrishell has been spending a lot of time in Australia and on tour with them, and so I think she almost resents the fact that she has to show up for this show now. Like, that's the energy that I'm getting from her. So I think it's like no fucks are given, like everything is out the window. She doesn't care about appearances because she actually doesn't see that as like her long-term future anymore. Like, she's used that to solidify herself, and she's probably signed a contract for however many years, and I think now she's just like done with it. Just a reminder too, guys, if you kind of enjoy the conversations that we're having, make sure to join our Geneva group and sign up to our newsletter, which comes out every Friday. They're both titled Infinite Scrolls, same as the podcast, and you can essentially be engaging with us every single day of the week. And I'll read some of the amazing reviews that we got on YouTube last week on our Emma episode. And we were very nervous. I think we mentioned this in the episode about doing Emma justice because of how, you know, foundational she's been to internet culture, and the response that we've gotten has actually been amazing. So thank you so much for everyone like encouraging us and, you know, responding to that episode with positive feedback, because it's been just really amazing to see that. So Sarah Roberts replied and said, I love this podcast. It's just what I need sometimes when the world gets too much. Keep up the amazing work. The world does feel like a lot, so we'll just give you, you know, your reality TV recaps. Kate says, this popped up in my recommended and I'm so glad. You're both so engaging to listen to, and I really appreciate the research that went into this. Even knowing very little about Emma besides her general career trajectory, I was able to follow this really well. Excited to watch more of your videos. And then Kylie said, I just stumbled across this podcast and oh my God, I love the way you guys have analyzed this TikTok/social media debate. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys. That means a lot because, you know, TikTok's pretty mad at us about this episode, but YouTube, you guys are out here understanding us.
Which honestly doesn't happen very often.
What, people getting mad at us on TikTok? I feel like that happens all the time.
No, YouTube is the positive, you know.
Oh, yeah.
The nice corner.
I mean, it's just a case study in the fact that, you know, because like obviously our TikTok is like a minute clip out of our an hour, 15-minute episode. Like, it literally is just a case study in the fact that for you to actually properly convey an opinion or information, you need more time than what a TikTok provides. Like, you need more context, you need more nuance, you need to be able to look at all different angles. The TikTok response versus our YouTube response this week just proves that.
Yeah, and also that YouTube functions as a search engine in a more authentic way. Like, people go looking for that information, so they're automatically more aligned with, you know, they're more open-minded to hearing opinions about it because they're looking for it. TikTok serves it to you when it might not necessarily align. They just know that you're interested in kind of this broad topic. So I feel like too, people often respond to that in a much more aggressive way.
All right, guys. So the first story in viral news this week is that Rosanna Pansino has spoken out against Colleen Ballinger following the MrBeast controversy. So Rosanna Pansino has addressed her friendship with Colleen Ballinger amid mounting public pressure. The creator, best known for her baking content, took to X, formerly Twitter, this week to condemn Colleen's inappropriate relationship with young fans over the years. She wrote, quote, "The whole situation makes me feel sad and breaks my heart. I'm still processing my feelings. I do believe that the behavior was inappropriate, mean-spirited, and I no longer communicate with her." She went on to say that she found out about Colleen's history of problematic behavior when the story broke on social media and in news outlets. And on why she chose to stay silent until now, Rosanna said she has no new insight to add to the conversation as she never witnessed this behavior herself. She also said she wanted to leave room for the victims to be heard and to hear all sides of the story. So Rosanna's statement on this comes off the back of a tumultuous couple weeks for her. Rosanna had recently spoken out against MrBeast about her participation in and subsequent edit in the Creator Games in 2021. She claimed that MrBeast edited her out of the video early, revealing that she had finished in third place, whereas he had edited her to look like she finished in fifth place. Later, when Rosanna appeared on the H3 podcast with Ethan Klein and Hila Klein to discuss the situation, she added that she hadn't spoken out about this situation because she had signed an NDA. Fans were criticizing Rosanna for speaking out against MrBeast when she had not yet addressed Colleen, given the severity of the claims leveled against Colleen. And Rosanna and Colleen collaborated so much. They were friends. Like, they had so many pictures together. They were constantly posting about each other on social media for a time period there. So, you know, people were kind of waiting for her response. The creator finished by urging social media users to be mindful that some people take longer to process information and emotions than others. She wrote, quote, "I hope people come to understand that peer pressuring others to speak on issues before they are ready can be unhealthy. My timeline is not someone else's timeline." And I think in this circumstance, I agree with that, because if she was genuinely really close with Colleen, this would be a hard thing to reconcile.
I completely agree. I think the MrBeast of it all, I understand fans' energy or, you know, audience energy. Like, coming from MrBeast feels so trivial in comparison to speaking out, like, or the lack of speaking out against Colleen. But I completely agree. It's on a completely different scale. She was really close to Colleen. I very much appreciate where she said that she wanted to leave room for victims to be heard and share all sides of their story and how that affected them. So I think that was actually really well done from her, which is, I don't want to say surprising, but she handled the MrBeast situation pretty badly, and all the, you know, discourse around that, and everyone was saying she needed to hire a PR person because she managed it not well. So I think I'm like kind of leaning towards being quite impressed with the way that she framed this side of the argument.
Yeah, and I don't think she actually needed to make a statement on Colleen, although I obviously can't speak to like what her DMs looked like or her mentions. I'm sure they were just absolutely flooded. I don't think anybody was calling on her necessarily to speak out while the major stuff was happening in like June and July with Colleen. I think it was more so because she decided to come so hard for MrBeast, and people are like you said, this is trivial in comparison to what your former bestie did. So like, let's take a seat and talk about that. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is a really good response. I think it's a fair response. I think the way she ended it, saying like, you know, pressuring people to speak on things before they're ready is not how we should do things. And like, the internet is so notorious for that. So I think it was all in all a pretty good statement.
Because she hadn't really been involved. Like, she wasn't really known for speaking out or like coming for other creators or being wrapped up in drama really at all before MrBeast, right? So that was kind of out of character for her in the first place, which really opened that can of worms. So I feel like hopefully if people can accept what she has said now about Colleen, that can kind of like close that chapter in her life, unless there is something she feels really inclined to say or comment or add to the situation. Then yeah, hopefully she can just kind of continue making content in the way that she has, and kind of keep that fan base that seems to be pretty neutral before this kind of became what it was.
All right. The next story is that Sofia Franklyn has apologized to Trisha Paytas for her reaction to a TikTok video. So Sofia Franklyn has publicly apologized to Trisha Paytas for her mean-spirited comments about Trisha amid a back and forth between the two on social media. For anyone that does not know, Sofia is an influencer and the host of the popular podcast Sofia with an F. She was previously the co-host of Call Her Daddy with Alex Cooper before the two had a really big falling out. So I think probably the only time we've covered Sofia was the Call Her Daddy stuff. Oh, we talked about her in relation to Abby, Dance Moms, I think on the JoJo episode.
Oh my God. Yeah, she's kind of actually ended up becoming quite intertwined with the YouTube community and creator community because of TikTok, I feel.
No, she is like popping off right now. So the controversy all started in late October when Sofia had Dance Moms alum Kalani Hilliker on her podcast. In one segment, Sofia and Kalani spoke about their mental health struggles, sparking a viral TikTok sound when Sofia said that she loves her mental illness, to which Kalani responded, "Me too. My mental illness literally makes me, me." I'm sure you guys have all seen that sound. People were stitching and duetting it with like videos of their entire medicine cabinet for their mental illness, and people were stitching it, screaming into their pillows, being like, shut the fuck up. So yeah, people were basically like, these two women are glamorizing mental illness, and Sofia actually ended up removing the clip from her TikTok amid this backlash. So before the video was removed, Trisha joined the conversation when she stitched Sofia's video. Trisha responded to Sofia and Kalani's statement, noting that it can be discouraging when people glamorize the realities of mental illness. Trisha said, "No hate to those two girls, but for those of us who don't love our mental illness, this one's for you." So I just feel like it's great that mental illness is normalized and talked about, and just so many more people are coming forward with their mental health struggles. Trisha said it can feel discouraging when those with mental illness appear to be functioning, quote, so easy and you're not. And then she went on to detail some of her struggles with borderline personality disorder, despite appearing like a success story in the public eye. She said, quote, "So for those people who genuinely love their mental illness, I'm happy for you, but I don't love mine, and that's okay. But you can have a really fulfilling, successful life full of love and happiness and still have bad days." Okay, so this was a really good TikTok. Like, Trisha was not mean. She was very level-headed when she was talking about this. She was nice about it. She was like, if you love your mental illness, happy for you, but that's not really the reality for most people. I think a statement that Sofia and Kalani made, and I understand there was no malice behind it. I understand that they were just like kind of talking out their ass and like just sharing their feelings about their own mental health journeys. But a statement like that, when you think about how hard the mental health community has advocated for people to take mental health and mental illness as seriously as like physical illness, if somebody had a chronic illness, like physical illness, they wouldn't be out here saying like, oh, I love my Crohn's disease. I love my chronic illness. I feel like that statement, while I understand they were just like shooting the shit, I understand how if you genuinely had mental illness and like you struggled a lot with your mental health, how you would be like, all of the work that we've been trying to do to destigmatize it, to make people believe us, to make people take it as seriously as physical illness, and then you go out and say something like that. I can understand how that'd be frustrating.
Totally. And I think Sofia is pretty well known at the moment for just not giving two shits. Like, she is just out here saying the most rogue stuff, and that is part of her brand. But I think this was a misplaced effort on her behalf to try and seem relatable. And I think that's the problem with relatability sometimes, is you end up saying the things that you think people want to hear. And I don't think she expected that to be the response. I think it was, like you said, it was like super out of pocket, super off the cuff. And I think she immediately would have been like, oh, fuck, that's not what I meant. But got defensive about it, especially because people aren't used to Trisha making so much sense and being so logical and pragmatic, that I think she was like, oh my God, Trisha Paytas is making more sense than me. Trisha Paytas is calling me out. She probably was like, this cannot happen, which is maybe why she got angry.
Yeah. So Sofia responded to Trisha's stitch by making a mean comment about Trisha's appearance, calling her electrocuted hair girl.
Trisha is like one of the most successful, famous people on the internet. Like, the disrespect.
True.
Sofia Franklyn.
Put some respect on our queen's name. True. But Sofia was like, no offense, because you know how Trisha started with like, okay, like no hate to these two girls. So then Sofia goes, no hate to electrocuted hair girl, but it's damaging to tell people how they should or should not express their own mental illness. And so this led Trisha to discuss Sofia's reaction on her podcast, Just Trish, and insisted that her stitch was not about Sofia specifically. She said, I love you, in reference to like Sofia's work. She had said like, I loved her on Call Her Daddy. I love her podcast, whatever. She said, I love you. And I love that you love your mental illness. I love that you talk about mental illness because you are like a conventionally beautiful girl and you're talented and successful. And I think that's great that you talk about it to show that everyone has mental illness. It was never an attack on you. I'm so sorry. Weeks later now, Sofia has formally addressed the situation on the latest episode of her podcast titled Another Apology. She said, what I said and what I did was a low blow, and I can fully acknowledge that. I am truly sorry. And then she went on to say that she finds it interesting how triggered she got by Trisha's stitch, considering Trisha's response wasn't mean or even directed at Sofia herself. She said, quote, for some reason when I watched it, it was extremely triggering. I don't know exactly why. Sofia then defended herself against the accusation that she was glamorizing mental illness. She said, quote, it's just how I felt in that moment. Me laughing and saying I love my mental illness on my show was just me taking ownership of my brain and my humanity and, acknowledging something that's a part of who I am. I just don't want that one moment to negate all the real discourse and genuineness that I have brought to the topic of mental illness. And then Sofia finished by saying she would love to have Trisha on her podcast and have a chat with Trisha privately. And like, I agree with that because Sofia does talk a lot about her mental health and her mental illness. And I think that I agree with what Trisha was saying. Like, it's great to see somebody who is so successful, so beautiful, is like aspirational, but has these issues. It shows that it is common and anyone can have mental illness. And, you know, she is doing good work in that sense. So I agree with what she said. Like, I don't want this one moment to negate that. And it just went so viral that I feel like it's actually going to be hard to break out of this now for her.
I mean, it's the exact same problem that we just mentioned at the beginning with TikTok, right? Like, in isolation, any little clip can be taken out of context. And in the scope of that episode where they were discussing it, that's the soundbite that goes viral. That's not necessarily representative of the way that she feels and the work she's done in the past. But of course, that's what people latch onto or can take issue with. And it's a mob mentality. As soon as you get one comment that says that that's a pick me thing to say, of course everyone else is going to jump on the bandwagon because she is aspirational and successful and beautiful. So I feel like people want to drag her down when they get the opportunity as well. I mean, like, she's not picture perfect. Like, I definitely think there's been a range of emotions associated with Sofia's content. She definitely is like, throws a hot take in there that's maybe not necessarily correct every time, every now and again, but also that's why people love her, because she is quite off the cuff. So I guess, yeah, kind of balancing a little bit of grace with knowing that maybe that wasn't necessarily her intention. She just got carried away with trying to be relatable. Okay, so moving into some tech news, because it's actually been a little while since, you know, there's been anything worth reporting on, but Meta has actually begun its rollout of ad-free versions of Facebook and Instagram. So Meta has started the rollout of its paid no ads versions of Facebook and Instagram across Europe in reaction to new EU privacy regulations. So according to The Verge, Meta is positioning the targeted ad version of its products as a choice by users. That's kind of how they're getting around the regulations. And obviously it is a choice whether or not you pay for a product or you choose to subscribe to the free version. But free is the alternative to paying around 14 USD or 20 AUD a month to halt ads across a single linked Facebook and Instagram account. So according to screenshots from The Verge, an update mentions that while it is a flat fee for both right now, from March 1, users will have to pay an additional fee to cover Instagram and Facebook accounts.
Oh my God.
I know. So the fee to go ad-free is €9.99 per month when purchased on the web and $12.99 per month when purchased through Google or Apple's app stores. So I assume they're just bumping it up to cover like the fees that Apple or Google would take. But Meta writes it's introducing the new choice because, quote, laws are changing in the region and that the free option means you'll, quote, discover products and brands through personalized ads and that your info will be used for ads. So there's like all these disclaimers. It's just, this is insane to me.
Okay, a couple things. One, Meta doesn't need more money. I cannot believe, I understand that's the whole point of capitalism, and especially these big tech companies, they're just trying to get that hockey stick growth constantly. They never want to plateau. It doesn't need more money. Like, sometimes you can have a business that is a multi-billion-dollar business and it doesn't need to make any more money. Like, that's okay. This is just such a cash grab.
Yeah, but also it's really, really bad timing. Like, from them, I think it's such bad strategy. Like, Facebook and Instagram are plateauing with users because there's no users left on the planet that need a Facebook account, basically, because they were the first, right? They've captured everyone that's on the internet. And because they're trying to compete with TikTok's growth and they're implementing all these things that, you know, end up going belly up or not suiting the audience because they're constantly like chasing something that isn't their strength. I think they're just pushing people further and further out the door. I actually think this is a horrible idea, regardless of whether it's going to make them like a quick buck, which I think it will because people will panic and pay for that. But I think eventually it's just going to like absolutely decimate the business, asking people to pay.
I think they're just going to need to provide more offering for this. Like, at the moment, when people scroll through social media, they don't even register ads because we're just so used to them. It's like when you drive down the highway, you're not registering the billboards that you're looking at. It's the same thing. We've all just become so desensitized to social media advertising. So people are not going to pay for this in hordes until they roll out something additional that like you are provided when you pay this fee, right? And it's like, I think about it like YouTube Premium. Like I pay for YouTube Premium because I don't want the ads because I listen to YouTube to fall asleep every night. And so having like a loud ad in my ear like wakes me up. So that's one of the biggest reasons. But also YouTube Premium, it's not just like an ad-free experience. It's like you can download YouTube videos so you can watch them offline when you're on a plane. Like there's all these other aspects to YouTube Premium that make it valuable for me as somebody who's like obsessed with YouTube. So I think they're going to have to introduce more things like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to have to be like a bulked up offering a little bit. I mean, I guess with Spotify, right? Like when Spotify, but I think they introduced the ad free tier that you pay for so early that it didn't feel jarring compared to the fact that people have been on Facebook for decades and now they're being, thrown to the wolves as far as being expected to pay for a service that they've become like very, very familiar with. So yeah, I do not think this is going to go down well. But in more tech news, TikTok's Creator Fund is shutting down after 3 years. So it's feeling, the tech space is unwell at the moment. So TikTok launched the Creator Fund in 2020, allocating $1 billion USD in spending over a 3-year period. So a July 2020 release from the TikTok newsroom announced the project and read, quote, "We're launching the TikTok Creator Fund to encourage those who dream of using their voices and creativity to spark inspirational careers. The fund will help support ambitious creators who are seeking opportunities to foster a livelihood through their innovative content." So over the years, TikTok users have claimed that the fund chronically underpaid creators. So in some cases, TikTok has received only a few dollars for videos with millions of views. So insane. So starting December 16 this year, TikTok's Creator Fund will be discontinued in the United States, United Kingdom, France, and Germany. However, randomly will still be available in Italy and Spain. So all users currently enrolled in the Creator Fund may upgrade to the Creativity Program Beta, which is TikTok's new fund that rewards, quote, high quality original content longer than 1 minute. They said, "We developed the creativity program based on learnings and feedback from the Creator Fund and will continue listening and learning from our community as we develop new ways to reward creators and enrich the TikTok experience." So not that it was good or substantial enough to sustain a career for a creator, but some have been saying that the end of TikTok's Creator Fund is really symbolic of the end of the golden age of TikTok and that first boom of opportunities for creators, which is so interesting. And then Kokomoko predicts it's also symbolic of short form video fatigue from audiences. And this is kind of representative of this shift that we'll see into more long form videos.
Yeah, I think it's probably more that TikTok is greedy and they want to have, like I was just talking about, these big tech companies always need to have continued growth for their shareholders. Is TikTok a publicly traded company?
I don't think so.
Either way, these tech companies, they want to be making as much money as possible. I think doing the Creator Fund was a way to encourage people to post more and more and more, and like obviously get more users on the platform, help build more like careers for different creators. Because if you're continually posting because you're part of the Creator Fund, then of course you're going to start building an audience and whatever. So it kind of helped them diversify, I think, the big TikTok creators at the top. And now they don't really have a need for it anymore. And like probably in their mind, like, why are we giving away money? Because it wasn't AdSense in the same way, right? Like YouTube doesn't necessarily give money away because it's brands that are paying them budget. And then they're actually taking some of that budget.
Well, and it is interesting timing as TikTok has begun to introduce like in-feed ads and in-video ads. The Creator Fund is ending. So I think that maybe does, you're right, have something to do with it, that now they're getting this influx of money in. They're like, why would we then be sending it out to people that are using our platform anyway? And also because of the scope, like how many views that you can get on TikTok in comparison to other platforms, I think they just didn't know how to appropriately monetize that, because the scale of views is so hard. Like, how do you decide what 1 million views is worth? You know, like that's more eyeballs than people have traditionally seen in, you know, a 24-hour period, or people blowing up and having careers overnight. Like, I don't think they quite nailed or were able to figure out what a view is worth in that respect, because this was kind of, you know, such a first in so many ways. But Coco Moco was also saying that she thinks they're going to try and follow a YouTube route as far as monetization and kind of have that AdSense with and encourage creators to create longer videos, because she's like, what's the return if, you know, it's a 10-second video and you're going to put a 30-second ad in there, but if you're watching a 30-minute video, then people can justify watching the 30-second ad. And YouTube is one of the few platforms that has had this like longevity. Obviously they've had their own issues, but it would be interesting if TikTok was then copy and pasting strategies from other platforms when every other platform has been doing that from their strategy for the last 5 years.
Yeah, totally. I think, to your point, they're just playing around with different ways to reward creators and monetize. But at the end of the day, when it comes to creators, they don't need to reward them because TikTok has solidified itself as one of, if not the most important platform in the zeitgeist right now, informing culture. Every single person that wants to be a content creator is going to be on TikTok, and likely TikTok first at this point, at least, you know, to help start their career. So I just think from a rewards perspective, they don't need to reward creators. So they like, why would they?
Yeah, 100%.
Which is like capitalism, baby.
Yeah, that's like a bridge they'll cross when they get to it, as like TikTok's relevancy begins declining. Then that can be like, okay, what do we need to do to keep creators here? But that's not the case right now.
All right. The next story, we have kind of like a twofold story. Our fifth story is like a big Taylor Swift update.
Yeah, just generally. We need to keep y'all in the loop.
Yeah. So as you guys know, we try and do like internet culture only here, but there are a few mainstream celebs that just penetrate that. You know, the Kardashians, Ariana, Selena, Hailey Bieber, and Taylor Swift, of course, is one of them. So a Swiftie has been hired as a dedicated Taylor Swift journalist. And of course, he is a white man. So Gannett, one of the largest newspaper publishers in the United States, has officially brought a Swiftie journalist on board. And while there is no denying that Taylor is a cultural force, the concept of a stan journalist is giving people the ick. So award-winning reporter Brian West is USA Today's official Taylor Swift correspondent, covering anything from the singer-songwriter's relationship with Travis Kelce to the Eras tours. So there's definitely a demand for Taylor Swift updates. Obviously, Pop Crave, our fave, has proven that. However, readers are questioning whether West, who is a self-proclaimed Swiftie, will be able to remain objective in his reporting. Benjamin Goggin, the deputy tech editor for NBC News, shared his opinions on this in an X thread, writing, "The problem with the Taylor Swift reporter hire is that Gannett hired a full stan, rather than someone who is capable of being critical of one of the most powerful people in pop culture." Goggin goes on to note that hiring a stan journalist like West shows, quote, how social media has poisoned parts of the media, with honesty coming second to, quote, positive coverage. I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, because a lot of people get into different areas of journalism because they are fans of that area.
That's kind of the benefit. Like, being a stan of Taylor Swift means that you understand the category of coverage, but then being in a professional environment where you're forced to cover it more broadly, like, opens your mind in a lot of ways. And you have to cover, you know, how Taylor Swift relates to different artists, and you have to cover the industry from a bunch of different like perspectives and touch points. So I think it just being controlled in that it's only about Taylor Swift is kind of the issue, because I think being a stan can be a really good like foot in the door, but that being your whole job is a different conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, I completely agree with what he said in the tweet, like being critical of one of the most powerful people in pop culture. Like, that is the point of journalism. Mm-hmm. So will this journalist be able to do that? Who knows? In a similar vein, however, many women have taken issue with West snagging the job. As a 35-year-old white man, it's safe to say he is not the typical Swiftie. So at Not Chase Bank wrote on Twitter, quote, "A man getting hired to be the Taylor Swift reporter feels misogynistic and reminds me of how women are mocked and belittled for things while men get to turn the same thing into careers. Like how women, quote, belong in the kitchen, but the majority of working chefs are men." I completely agree with this. Before this discourse, I had seen anything. The first thing when we were talking about this in Slack with Crystal is she was like, I cannot believe they gave this to a man. This is so indicative of culture.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, there's nothing else to add except how insane and upsetting it is that, you know, women determine pop culture but are mocked for it at the same time, and then the opportunity to actually monetize that level of interest comes up and it's given to a man. Like, it's so shocking but so unsurprising at the same time, but it like actually like makes my blood boil.
And of course men can be fans of Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift, I mean, women have given Taylor Swift her career. We have championed her for over a decade, and Taylor Swift writes songs about the female experience. Like, that's why we all resonate with her so much and why she has such a solid fan base. So yeah, it's so fucking typical. Like, it's like a fucking course. I mean, it reminds me of Bravo, like the Bravo universe. There are a lot of women that have successful podcasts and brands off the back of analyzing Bravo and reality TV, but some of the biggest are men. And it's like, of course.
And it's so interesting because Gannett like had the opportunity, you know, everyone was so fascinated by what they were going to do with this and thought it was really progressive and didn't quite know how it was going to pan out. But everyone was so interested in what this was going to look like. And then they absolutely like fumbled the ball and like did exactly what everyone would have expected from this. Like, they were doing something that kind of felt innovative and out of the box in a lot of ways, and people felt really validated, being like, yeah, there should be a Taylor Swift reporter. You know, there are so many facets of culture that she influences, and then for them to just like not do with that what they could have just feels really disappointing. I feel like people are like double let down.
Others, of course, are saying that the criticism leveled against West is too harsh. So some people are claiming that stans can be and often are critical of their favorites. And, you know, others are saying that the stanification of reporting is representative of other streams of journalism, like I said, like music journalism, and is not really specific to West or Taylor Swift.
Yes, but of course, Taylor Swift, everything she touches turns to gold. So this is the, you know, the one that everyone's talking about. So while it's not specific to like him, like he kind of is signing up for it, and Gannett is signing up for it by like attaching themselves to Taylor Swift's name and like letting that propel the discussion and discourse, and it becoming a far bigger topic than it would have been under normal circumstances.
My dream job is to be a stan reporter about Trisha Paytas.
Okay, that basically is your job, Lauren. That is your job.
That's true. I actually created that job for myself.
Yeah, you literally made that job out of thin air.
That's so true. And I just roped you in with me.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, didn't know who Trisha was before, but I will die knowing everything there is to know about her. So here we are. Okay, the next installment of the Taylor Swift update, and I'm sure nobody actually needs to be made aware of this. I'm sure everyone's seen it, but it's still like obviously just is so insane and we have to cover it. So Taylor and Travis's Argentina trip while she's on, you know, the South American leg of her Eras tour has caused a lot of excitement among fans because a few major things have happened. So the first being Taylor changed the lyrics of her song in Karma, referencing Travis when she was singing. She said, "Karma is the guy on the Chiefs coming straight home to me." And then the second thing was the couple had dinner together and the entire restaurant cheered when they walked in. And then, of course, the video that will go down in history, I think I've seen it 45 times, like basically while I was waiting for your like 15-minute delay of getting set up.
Yeah.
It was the only thing. It's just like repeating. It's my Roman Empire. Taylor ended her show by like running off stage and she was like waving to people as she was running, and then she like puts her head down and essentially goes into a sprint and like jumps into his arms and kisses him, and it's like the cutest thing. She looks like she's hugging a tree. Like, he's so massive. Yeah. But it's the cutest thing. Everyone is obviously collectively losing their minds. And while some people are still convinced this is a PR relationship, a source told Us Weekly that, quote, Travis and Taylor are a very real couple. They actually spend a lot of one-on-one time together and have developed a very real connection. They have very detailed plans coming up on how to stay together while she's on tour and he has games. So internet users, and this is part of why this kind of circumstance specifically has gone so viral, is that internet users can't stop comparing how Taylor is acting with Travis and how she acted with Joe. And they also point out how differently both men acted with her. So Travis seems so excited and happy to be with her and seems to understand what it takes to be linked with such a huge celebrity. He also clearly is not afraid of the fame himself. Like, he is the star of the show in the NFL broadly anyway. He has been for a while. Whereas Joe always seems so unhappy when publicly with Taylor. Like, even when he attended her shows, there's all these side-by-side videos and Joe is like scowling and Travis is like holding up a fan sign, like dancing, like so engaged with the whole thing. And he also knows the law. Like, he knew what he was getting himself into. The friendship bracelets of it all is like a fundamental part of their story and them getting together. Like, he gets it. That being said, Joe is obviously like a much more private person who doesn't seem to enjoy fame. So it's probably not a totally fair comparison. But Girl Boss Town predicts that Taylor and Travis will be engaged by February and they will share it with the public by April next year. I saw Chicks in the Office commenting on it actually on TikTok, and she was saying this collectively, we all feel like Tom Cruise. This is maybe a reference that will date me or like make me seem much older than I am, but we all collectively feel like Tom Cruise when he was jumping on the couch being like, I'm in love with this girl, I'm gonna marry this girl, about Katie Holmes. Like, that is how excited everyone is about like the way this has all come together for them.
I don't know. Some people are saying this must not be as much of a serious relationship. If like she's acting like this, we've never seen her act like this with other people. He's a completely different type of celebrity that she's ever dated, right? So I think that's definitely part of it. But when it comes to Joe, I also have to wonder if there's something to be said for the cultural comparisons. Like, even coming from Canada, going to Australia, it's kind of similar, like going from like the US to the UK. And it's like culturally, people are so different. UK, Australia is much more reserved than North Americans are. And I don't know. I feel like people are kind of being mean about Joe, but maybe like I don't know enough about the lore of their relationship, and maybe he was just like a huge asshole. I don't know. But it's really cute to see how happy she is and how excited she is, even if this doesn't end up being like a long-term thing. Like, just knowing that she's having so much fun, and they seem to be having fun, and I believe that they're in a real relationship. I think it's cute, and we've never seen this from her.
No, I think that's what everyone is loving, that they're getting this like PDA side of her. Like, it really is opening up a new side of her. It's like unlocking a new level in a video game, and like he's responsible for that. Like, we're seeing a side of her that we've never seen before, and maybe without him we never would have seen. So I feel like Swifties are like, yes, they're so happy that she's happy, but they're also so grateful that they get this like new facet of her personality that now is open and people can engage with it, and it's something that they, you know, can like add to their bank of things that they know about Taylor Swift, for people that are like so in love and obsessed with her. I'm gonna not put on my conspiracy hat for this and agree with Girl Boss Town and say I'm gonna make a very bold statement that I think that they'll get married.
Oh my God, that is so wild.
Yeah, I mean,
I could see that.
It's also like, you know how they talk about in a relationship, just broadly a relationship and dating context, boys don't marry the right person. Boys marry the person they're with at the right time. And I think that maybe that is Taylor, like maybe it is the right time for both of them. You know, they are a certain age. They're very well established in their careers. Like, it is maybe at a point where they want to be looking at what the next chapter of their life looks like. Like, and I think about that all the time with Taylor Swift. Like, where can she go from here? Where can she go from the Eras tour? I've seen a lot of conversations about how she's going to go ghost again for another couple of years because she needs to recover from this. Like, this is the most insanely, like, physically, emotionally demanding time of her life. And we keep expecting Taylor Swift to level up. Like, where the fuck can she level up from here?
I also feel like Taylor has probably dated a lot of men in her past, maybe even including Joe, where she possibly had to make herself in the public eye seem smaller because they didn't have careers that anywhere touched, you know, the level of her career. And while I am very much in the camp of like Taylor Swift is introducing Travis Kelce to the world because she is an international superstar and he is really only known in America. Like the NFL is not a global organization, but he doesn't seem to care. Like he doesn't seem threatened by her fame or success. Like he celebrates it. And I don't think we've ever seen that, at least publicly, with the people she's dated.
Yes, completely. So it actually feels like an alignment that maybe we've never seen and she's never experienced before, which is why I feel like it's going to happen. It's all lining up. Everything's coming up for them.
Yeah. Okay. I'll believe it.
Okay. Amazing.
I subscribe.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So that is viral news for the week. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Reviews are so incredibly helpful for to help us grow and find new audiences. So if you feel so inclined to do that, we would be so appreciative. And we will see you on Thursday.
Bye, guys.
Bye.